on the chat. He also is watching this Legends Truth text line. And you can call us on that line and leave a text at 515-809-0993. 515-809-0993. That is the Service Legends Truth text line. And Bob is watching it. And we don't know who you are unless you identify yourself. So it's somewhat anonymous, just like our studio line is. We don't have caller ID. Why do I say that to people? Because I wear tinfoil hats through a lot of my life. And I always think the other shoe's about to fall. I always think I'm on a slippery slope. I always think you have a ulterior motive for what you're doing. It's just the way the accuser works inside my head. Makes me I'm getting better, but it makes me a very untrusting person. You know, you hear about people who just automatically trust people for right away, and then later they get in trouble. I'm the opposite. I tell people. In fact, I probably told every one of you in this room, don't trust me. How do I know I can trust you, Mac? Don't trust me. Trust but verify everything that we do. And at some point down the line, somebody will say, so you work with McCoy. Do you trust him? And you'll go, yeah, he earned my trust. Yeah. So I always tell people, don't trust me up front, and don't trust anybody up front. Now, if you want to be that type of person, that's okay. I really like your heart, that you want to start out in a trusting place. I just think there are really bad people out there that the minute they find out that's your heart, they put on their schmazoo, and then they take you for everything you're worth. All right. A lot of questions. Tragedy. These two police officers that were killed late Friday night, early Saturday morning. They have now identified the young man who was driving the wrong way car, I think they're calling it. His last name is Barry. He is from Knoxville. He is 21 years old. But for whatever reason, the newspaper is trying to show us that he had a bad driving record. Why is that what you want to hear, Chris? You want to hear that this young man didn't have a spotless driving record? Does that make any difference to you? I mean, everybody wonders why. Why was he going 100 mile an hour, straight as an arrow, as an eyewitness said, down the wrong side of the interstate at, 1:40 in the morning?
Mac, I think that's my only question. My only question is why. I don't know. I saw that as well on the front page of the Des Moines Register.
Yeah.
I don't know that I care that he has a bad I probably have a bad driving record.
You mean you don't know?
Well, no, I know.
Well, they've dug into it. In 2012, Barry was arrested for operating while intoxicated by University of Iowa police court records show. His license...
Okay, I've never done that.
I have. His license was revoked for 1 year for refusing to provide the arresting officer with a sobriety test. He spent 2 days in jail, paid $1,250 fine, plus $2,707 in restitution and court costs, and was ordered to participate in a 48-hour OWI program. I've done that. Knoxville police charged Barry with public intoxication in November of 2014, his third such offense. He spent 10 days in jail and paid a $100 fine. So what they want us to think of that this might be alcohol related. One of Barry's best friends is a young man by the name of Kiefer. Kiefer said he's the type of guy that he's escaped death before. He's rolled a car, stuff like that. He never gets hurt and walks away. Plays soccer with him in high school and then again at William Penn University. He said his heart is full of sorrow and his head is full of anger. They challenged each other, traveled to Colorado together, played golf, and had debates. Kiefer said drinking was one of Barry's demons, but he had been doing better since his OWI conviction. The reality is he killed 3 people, and that's a hard pill to swallow. Not even knowing those 2 cops and that woman in the back of the car, Kiefer said, it's sad that it had to happen. So anyway, there it is. We're probably going to find out that his blood alcohol level was too high. Shouldn't have been driving. And Bob, you said yesterday, even though his body was burned beyond recognition, that they can still determine blood alcohol level.
I would say probably, yes.
Probably. They have his grandmother talking about him. Kind, happy person. Ben was just a great kid. I know it doesn't seem like it today, but he was. He was smart and had a lot of friends. He really cared about people. This whole thing is just so tragic for all four families involved. I feel bad for the family because the memory of their son is going to always be, oh, him. He's the one. That's too bad. That's too bad. All right. Here's the question I want you to answer for me today. We're going to talk about this for about a half hour, and I want you to get involved. I want to hear what you have to say. This is a poll. I know we can go to Facebook and set up polls. Maybe we should do that one day, Bob. You know how to do that?
No.
Yeah, there's a free app on Facebook where you can set up a poll, and then people take the poll. Will you check into that? See if you can figure that out.
I could, or somebody could tell me how to do it.
You know how to do it?
That's listening. I'm
Chris?
not talking.
You know, honestly, I don't know how. I've never tried it before. It's probably just one of the options in your status bar. You know, when you go to write a post, it's probably just one of the little things there.
Jeb, are
Like
you
you can
listening
add
to
a
me?
picture or things like
Do you know
that.
how to set up a poll on Facebook? Will you check into that just for a minute? You don't have to do it right now, but I'd just be curious if we could do that sometime in the future. So here's my question.
Okay.
There is a landmark case that will be heard tomorrow by the Iowa State Supreme Court. I guess I should just say Iowa Supreme Court.
Okay.
The state of Iowa Supreme Court. This is not the Cyclones. The court case that's going to be heard by the Supreme Court is Kelly Jo Griffin versus the state of Iowa. Iowa justices will hear arguments in the case of a Southeast Iowa woman who is challenging the Iowa law that permanently strips felons of their voting rights. Kelly Jo was convicted in 2008 of felony cocaine delivery. She completed her sentence in November of 2013 when she took her children to watch her vote in the municipal election, only to be charged with perjury for voting as a felon. A ruling in favor of Griffin and her lawyers with the American Civil Liberties Union of Iowa could radically alter what critics have long argued is one of the nation's harshest felony disenfranchisement laws ever. But county prosecutors and auditors feel that such a ruling will make a mess of election procedures. Listen to this. Only Iowa, Florida, and Kentucky are the only three states remaining who permanently bar convicted felons from voting unless they complete a process for restoration, a requirement that groups like the NAACP and ACLU contend is burdensome. So here's my question. Do you think a convicted felon, when they get out of jail, should have their voting rights restored? And I'll tell you where else this case will go. You know what else happens in the state of Iowa if you're a convicted felon? You cannot own a gun. You cannot receive legally the right to carry, to own, to have in your premise. In fact, I believe it's a felony if a felon is found to have a weapon. Is that right, Bob?
Sounds right.
All right. So what will happen here is this case will be the slippery slope that will then come down to, they can also own a gun again.
Doubtful that that's a slippery slope. If there are only 3 states left in the United States that require or do not allow felons to vote, that means that the mass majority of states in the United States allow felons to vote after they've gone through whatever that process was there. But that's still not the case, I don't think, throughout the nation in regards to felons and firearms. I don't think felons can own firearms anywhere in the United States, right?
No, you're correct. They
Right,
can't.
legally, right. But they all have them.
But here's the issue, though. And I think we talked about this the other day. There's a move in society, which then becomes a move in government and laws to take away the stigma of past offenses against the law. We'll talk about this as we go on. 515-244-0077. Do you think a felon, after serving their time, should have their voting rights restored to them? Call us up. Tell us what you think. It's live today on The Truth. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you, the listener. So thanks for listening.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
Hey everybody, I brought Northern Lights Pizza! And it's got Graziano sausage!
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for the opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Good afternoon, 21 minute 3:21 on the 29th day of March. This reminder tomorrow, one of Chris's favorite theologians is going to be on. Stanley, how do you say his last name?
Hauerwas?
Huh?
Hauerwas?
Hauerwas.
Yeah.
Haurwas. Hauerwas, German.
Hauer, I believe.
ER. He is a professor of divinity at the highly acclaimed Duke School of Theology. And when I asked him what he was passionate about, he was passionate about moving the gospel through society in a way that is not offensive to other people. Now, isn't the gospel just naturally offensive? I mean, isn't that the whole point? That the story of the gospel is offensive to someone who wants to live in self and be the world, their own God in their own world, and therefore the idea of surrendering first of all, the idea that I sin. I'll be Donald Trump for a minute. I don't sin. I never do anything wrong. I don't have to go to God to ask him for anything.
I think the good news itself should set people free from that, because I think all of us know, even Donald Trump knows, that when we say things like that, we're only lying to ourselves. When we're alone and no one's confronting us and no one's challenging us, each one of us know that we've done something wrong, even by our own standards. Much more so have we, no doubt, grieved the heart of the Creator, the one who created us. And the good news comes to us and says, yeah, that is true. That sadness that you feel, it's true. And you don't have to lie to yourself anymore, and you don't have to lie to other people anymore. But the God who created you loved you enough to do something to get you from that guilt and from that shame. And it should be good news. But I think sometimes we present it in such a way that it is offensive because it's not honest.
Well, that'll be our guest tomorrow. He's a very interesting conversationalist. Then the impeccable Jen Green from Life 107.1. And formerly Steve Deace's on-air partner, is going to join us on Thursday because she likes to talk. Those are her words, not mine. She likes to talk about what's going on in society, and that's not the role that she can do over there, just like we can't play music. And so, except Blondie, call me. But we are looking forward to having Jen on Thursday afternoon. And then Friday, something special. Shh. It's a secret, but I know you'll love it. All right, 515-244-0077. That's the place you can call because it's your voice I want to hear. Here's the question. Should Iowa, there's only 3 states that do this now, Iowa, Florida, and Kentucky, all 47 other states, when you are convicted of a crime, a felony, and you have completed your time in restitution, your right to vote is returned to you. Except in Iowa, Florida, and Kentucky. And the Iowa Supreme Court hears this case tomorrow, and I want you to be the judge and jury right now. Should Iowans convicted of felonies have their voting rights restored? 515-244-0077. Let's go to line 110 where Jeff is standing by. Jeff, you're live in Mac's World. What you say?
I say that provided you have done your time, paid your restitution, you're off of parole or probation, whatever the case may be, then absolutely, you're a citizen of this state. Then you should be allotted. You paid your crime you paid your price for your crime. Then you should be reinstated as a citizen. If not, then you're an outcast for life, and that's just not the Iowa way.
What about the restoration of your gun rights and your Second Amendment rights?
I would go the same path with that. If you are an upstanding citizen and you've paid, you committed a crime that's terrible. You went ahead and lived up to, you did your time. You paid your price. You've made it through your parole sentence or whatever that is. Then absolutely, if you're a citizen, then the Constitution of the United States said that those rights shall not be infringed upon. It doesn't say unless that you jaywalked too many times or had too much
alcohol or whatever it was.
Whatever it was, exactly. So I completely, and that would be a good start to just automatically, once your parole's done, you should have your voting rights back. And it's my opinion that if you so choose to obtain a permit to carry or be able to go hunting or whatever the case may be, once you're a citizen, you should enjoy citizens' rights. If you break the laws of our society, then those rights will be denied until you reinstate yourself as an outstanding citizen. I think every right should be reobtained by people that made mistakes.
Hey Jeff, great comment. This is Chris. Maybe this is obvious, but if the felony was one that was of a violent nature, does that change your opinion? I mean, if the person who was a felon was convicted for a violent act, does that change your position on just the gun ownership side of it, not so much the voting side of it?
Well, that's an interesting point, but I would have to stand with, if you are a citizen of the United States, and or Iowa, whatever, and you are, an upstanding citizen, you don't have any parole issues, restitution issues, any of that. If you've paid your debt to society, I'm expected to pay taxes like everybody else. I'm expected to do all these other things as an upstanding member of society, but I'm denied certain rights that everybody else has to do. But I continue to have to pay and obey all the laws, the speed limits, this, everything. But there's certain things that I'm not able to do because 20 years ago I did something that was written down as wrong.
That makes sense. I mean, once you've done the time, you've done the time. You've served your sentence. Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Jeff, thanks for listening and thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. 515-244-0077. That's the number you can call. We also have the Service Legends Truth text line where you can get on your smartphone. Well, do you have to have a smartphone?
No, just any text-enabled device.
Okay.
And I have some.
You have some text? All right.
Yep.
809-0993. Robert, read them off.
Okay, first one. People change. They should get their rights back if they have served their time and paid their fees. Number 2, no free passes. Take the class. Number 3, I really don't care.
Hold on, wait, back up. No free passes, take the class. What class?
I think there was in the article you read, there is a class or there's something that a felon needs to go through even to get their voting rights restored. So
yes, you are correct.
I think that's fine. I think because part of the article had mentioned
complete a process for restoration, a requirement that groups of the ACLU and NAACP contend are burdensome.
Yeah, I don't know that. I guess I don't know what the classes are. So. Yeah. Anyway.
Hey, Mac, I believe if the guy's done his time, man or woman has done their time, and they're not on probation, they ought to get their gun rights restored.
So once they're off parole.
No probation. If their voting rights are restored, gun rights is just as important.
Okay, that was Frank's thoughts. You have more texts?
One more. I really don't care, but perhaps there should be a slow process to get that right back.
Well, that slow process, I guess, would be that completing a process for restoration. I mean, I guess it sounds like we have something for that.
Can I ask a simple question? So it seems like, and you've put these two things on the table, Mac. One, if someone is a felon and they've been incarcerated, they get out, they've served their time, and now we're talking about gun ownership. That's one thing, and I think that's different. But what about... Because I could see people making an argument that maybe felons shouldn't have guns. Former felons shouldn't have guns. But why not be allowed to vote?
Well, this is just something that was in the Constitution years and years and years ago. This is the Founding Fathers, that should you commit a crime that they considered a felony. You got to remember, there wasn't petty crime back then. A criminal was a criminal, and they were basically bad all the way around.
Right.
The classes separated people. You had very little middle class. I don't even know if we have any today. But you have the very well off, and they were the fathers. They were the people who ran the cities, the counties, the governments. And then you had the workers, I guess. And if you were akin to one kind of crime, your lifestyle and your needs probably put you in line with another kind of crime. If you didn't keep a job regularly, if you were an alcoholic, if you were someone who abused people physically and emotionally, usually you ended up in jail, and they were not going to give you a gun when you got out. You did not deserve to protect yourself because you've hurt somebody else. Now,
right,
that's a 1770 deal there.
Right, and like I say, though, I could see an argument for not having a handgun. But why remove vote? Why remove the voting right from a felon?
Well,
I could almost see an argument made for someone incarcerated voting.
Yeah.
Chris and Mac, I think that voting right should be nationwide. I don't care either way they do it. I'm fine if a felon doesn't have the right to vote. I'm fine if they want to restore their right to vote at some point, but it should be done nationwide. It shouldn't be left to the states' rights issues to decide that.
No, I disagree with you on that, Frank. I think it should be there should be more stuff that's left to the state rights.
But again, my question is, What's so bad about a felon voting?
Okay.
We got to stop that.
Let me see if I can say this so that it'll make sense, because I'm not the best speaker sometimes. Remember what a vote is. You and I live in a society where we take votes for granted. I would vote, I won't go vote. Maybe I'll caucus, maybe I won't. Depends on who's running. If it's Trump and Hillary, then I'm not going to vote, Back then, they came to America and went through all they went through to be able to vote, to be able to elect a president, a congressman, a senator. They came from a place that had a queen and a king. And even the parliament was real shaky back in England back in those days. They left that tyranny to come over and have the right to have religious freedom, because over there was the state church. It was the Episcopal Church. Okay, Henry VIII created the Episcopal Church.
Anglican Church.
Anglican, yeah. Everybody was Catholic, and they wouldn't give him another divorce because of his next wife or whatever. And so he created the Anglican Church, the state church. So they came over here for freedom from religion and the power of one man, one vote. The democracy, the republic, however you want to look at it. So back then, if you committed a felon, if you were so bad that you were put in jail, we were not going to give you the right to vote, because who were you most likely to vote for? I mean, heck, let's look at 2016. If you're a felon and you think white-collar crime is not a big deal and you get your vote back, who are you likely to vote for? Hillary Clinton, because she's basically a criminal who's never spent time behind bars. Now, I'm not trying to make a political statement on that. If Tom Henderson were here, I'm sure he'd disagree, head of the Democratic Party here in the state of Iowa.
Polk County, anyway.
Polk County, yeah. But so, you and I vote, no big deal. Back then, the ability to vote was so American, so uniquely American, that they weren't just going to give that out to anybody, especially after you committed a felony.
Well, I appreciate your answer, because it causes me to stop and think and remember that, we should vote based on our character, and we should vote for people who reflect our character. I mean, what I hear you say is that there was a time in the United States when the character of a person mattered.
Yeah.
Is that not pathetic that I just had to say that sentence?
Well, I was just wondering, Chris, in your opinion, which candidate would most fit a felon's vote?
My mic seems to have gone off. For some reason, my mic just doesn't work.
But they can hear you.
I tried to answer that, but my mic, every time I'll tell you right now. See, it happened again. My mic just didn't work when I tried. 515-244-0077.
515-244-0077. Should a convicted felon who's paid their price to society get their voter rights back, or their right to own a gun? It's your voice I want to hear.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
.338, 22 minutes before the top of the hour. Salem Radio Network News at the top. And then Bill Weiss wrote a book called 23 Minutes in Hell. We've had him on this show before. And now it's being made into a movie. He will be on the phone with us with Tom Coates in studio. That'll be our conversation in the 4 o'clock hour. I hope you take time to listen. You'll also be able to call in and ask him questions. Same number as I'm asking you to call now, 515-244-0077. There is a case going before the Iowa Supreme Court tomorrow. Iowa Supreme Court. We have more than 20,000 felons in the state of Iowa that would then have their voting rights returned to them, which they have now lost. Iowa, Kentucky, and Florida are the only 3 states in the entire nation that once you've paid your time, you did the crime, you paid your time, you paid your restitution, everybody's clear, you're free, you're not on parole, you're not on probation, you're free. Iowa's one of the only 3 states in the nation that does not return your right to vote. And it's like most states in the nation, you also don't get the right to bear arms back. Now, what they're talking about tomorrow is just the voting rights. But I'm telling you, the right to bear arms is coming. See, here's one of the things that the new progressives are trying to do, and I think we talked about this the other day. Maybe we didn't. There is a move in society that has it illegal. They want it illegal if a potential employer asks anything about your criminal past. Right now, if you fill out an application, have you ever been convicted of a misdemeanor? What is it? Have you ever been convicted of a felony? What is it? And I can tell you right now, if you check that felony box, there are a lot of companies that's it. You're done right then and there. You could have you could be 40 years old and have the most amazing experience that this job absolutely fulfills. You could be hands down, the best candidate for that job. But when you were 18, you committed a felony and it went on your record. You might have even got time, what do they call that? Not time excused, time served. And nothing bad ever happened to you. You might have accidentally, let me give you an example. You borrow your roommate's credit card and you go out and charge a dinner or charge a tank of gas or whatever, and the roommate decides that he doesn't like you or she doesn't like you anymore, turn you in. Well, you've used the credit card. You knew you had permission. The roommate says you never had permission. You stole the card. That's a felony. Misusing right? Tom Coates is in here. That's a felony. That's misuse of a financial instrument.
Sounds like it to me. The act would play into that as well.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. If it was a tank of gas, probably not. But at some point, let's say it was $1,000. So you're the perfect person for this job. But you had a felony 22 years ago when you had just become an adult. And now this company, because you check, yes, I have a felony on my record, they will not look at you. Now, do you think that's fair?
That's a question. Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair. I think if you're filling out an application to work somewhere, I think that you should disclose that. But we talked about this when Pastor Luke Tim was on the broadcast with us a little bit, and I think this is an opportunity to keep that on the books, to keep that as procedure when applying for a job. I think is a good thing. I think that your future employer needs to know that. But I also think it presents an opportunity for the church, for Christians, to come alongside people and stand with them if they really have been rehabilitated and they have had real life change and they're working their way back up. I think it's interesting, though, Mac, that the same group of people that want to remove this kind of accountability for people when they do a criminal act, they want to remove the kind of that accountability that they should have as they continue on their life, get another job. The people that want to remove that are the same people who want to take our guns away.
And the same people who say abortion should be legal.
Right. It's very strange. They just don't all. They're odd combinations.
Well, they don't want to be held accountable for their actions. Right? I mean, that's what. If I want it legal to have an abortion, if I'm convicted of a felony, I don't want that to be on my record overall. I don't want you to know that at 19, I did a stupid thing and borrowed my buddy's credit card, and he and I had a fight about it, and he turned me in, and I got convicted of a felony. Now, I never served any time. I didn't have to pay any fine. I did have some court costs, and that buddy and I now have made up, and we just laugh about it. But now I go apply at a company, and I don't know if it's principal, if it's nationwide, if I don't know what company does this. No, wait, I'm sorry. I know of a lot of companies that do it. I just am not going to put a name on any of them. But if you check that box, you're done.
Yes, I have another text that came in. If you have complete disregard for the system, why should you be able to vote in it?
Well,
that was the Service Legends Truth text line, 515-809-0993. You can send your comments there, 515-809-0993.
See, I think I understand where that texter and listener is coming from, but on the other hand, when you start down that slippery slope that you're not good enough, you don't agree with society the way I think you should. You believe it's okay to live off the grid. You believe it's okay to have tattoos all over your body. You believe it's okay to father children when you don't have, when you're not married. You think it's okay. You think it's okay. You think it's okay. Now you get into a massive, horrible voter fraud. And that's what this bill is about. Obviously, there are 47 states that disagree with Iowa who have returned voting rights to felons when they get out of prison. Tom Coates?
Well, the thing, I was listening to you guys as I was driving in. Did you ever mention about the fairly recent national election where the voting of felons that were not supposedly allowed to vote but did anyway influenced a major national election? Did you mention that one?
No.
The one up in Minnesota a few years ago. There was some chicanery at the polls, and there were thousands of felons that were not ostensibly eligible to vote that were allowed to vote, and the Democrat senator from Minnesota, what's his name, used to be a
comedian.
Franken.
Al Franken.
Never very funny comedian, but he's even less funny in the U.S. Senate. And he's sitting there, many people allege, because of thousands of felons that were not supposedly allowed to vote, maybe many of them still incarcerated. Frank, yes?
Go ahead.
Remember that incident, Frank?
If you remember, Dino Rossi up in Washington State lost 2 elections, one for the governorship to Christine Gregoire, and then I think he lost another one for the Senate. But that one between Gregoire and Rossi was clearly lost in one precinct on something like a certain number of convicted felons who voted, and that's the exact number of votes that Rossi lost that precinct by.
It's interesting to note that seemingly the vast majority of felons tend to want to vote for the Democrat.
Yeah. By the way, I don't compliment Frank very much. I want you to know, and you couldn't see this, he knew that off the top of his head.
Yeah, he was just standing there in the producer's booth, no compuper in front of him.
Yeah, so
that's just data in his head.
It's just one of the reasons we keep Frank around, because he's semi-brilliant in many areas.
Another text.
Dysfunctional in most others.
Another text.
Another text at the Service Legends Truth text line at 809-0993. Robert?
Good. I believe that forcing their felony to be known when applying for a job is cruel and unusual punishment. It devastates their ability to make a living.
Wow. Good. That's what I want to hear. I want to hear opposition. I want to hear your voice, because if two people always agree, one of us isn't necessary. And unfortunately, that's not you. That ends up being me, and my job's eliminated. So, yeah, that's interesting. I wish that person would call in. I'd like to converse about that a little bit, because I don't know. I've never tried to hide anything in my... Have I? Have I ever tried to hide anything in my past?
Oh, probably.
Well, yeah, probably. But
I mean, don't we all?
I was going to say, to some degree, we all do.
Yeah,
I don't just get up in the morning, write down everything I've ever done, and send it out to everyone I know. Like, Tom, you never got that email, have you?
I could send some out.
Yeah, there you go.
515-244-0077. I want to know if you think the Iowa Supreme Court tomorrow should allow felons to have their voting rights and gun rights restored. 515-244-0077. It's your voice I want to hear on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Minutes before the top of the hour, 3:50 on the 29th day of March, 2016. J. Michael McCoy. We're going to have a great show next hour. Bill Weiss, you remember Bill? He's been on the show with us before. He wrote a book called 23 Minutes in Hell. When he was in his kitchen one night, and all of a sudden he looked at the clock and he knew what time it was, and then all of a sudden he found himself in hell. And 23 minutes later, his wife came down and shook him. He was on the ground, and boom. He knew he had spent 23 minutes in hell. His new book, What Happens When I Die. He's a New York Times best-selling author, and it's true stories of the afterlife and what they tell us about eternity. Ooh, I'm going to love this interview. I'm going to love this interview. All right, 515-244-0077. That's the number you can call if you'd like to get on the air with us. 515-244-0077. The question is, tomorrow, the United States, or the Iowa Supreme Court, will decide the Kelly Jo Griffin versus Iowa. And that case says this: 20,000 plus Iowa felons who currently do not have voting privileges, they would be restored. Now, you might find this odd, but there are only 3 states in the Union, Iowa, Florida, and Kentucky, who still don't return those voting rights to felons after they've paid their time, paid their restitution, done their time. And they're trying to get that changed. And they're trying to get that changed, and I want to know your opinion on it. 515-244-0077. Let's go to line 123 where Bill is standing by. Bill, how are you?
Good.
So what do you think? Should a felon have their voting rights restored?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How about gun rights?
I do too on that.
Well, that's awesome, Bill. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, whatever you'd like to say.
As a prior military service person, there's plenty of felons in the military. And they defend our country.
Yeah.
And they can carry a gun in combat, but they can't when they get home.
Yeah, that's wrong, isn't it?
There's felony waivers for the military.
There's waivers?
Yes, you can be a convicted felon and still join the military.
Okay.
And go to combat and defend your country, and you get home, and you can't vote, and you can't own a gun.
And you don't agree with that?
No, I don't think that's right at all. I think if a guy did his time, joined the military, got home, I think he earned more than enough to have all his rights restored.
I would agree with that. I would absolutely agree. Bill, thank you very much for calling. I appreciate it. 515-244-0077. That's the online. That's where we can hear your voice. If you just want to text us, it's the Service Legends Truth text line at 515-809-0993. So what'd you think of that? Guy's got a very good point.
That is fascinating, isn't it? That
You're a felon.
Right.
You can still join the service. You can still have a gun in your hand. You can still protect this country and die with a gun in your hand. But once you come home and you're not in the service anymore, you can't own a gun. That's just messed up.
Seems a little odd, doesn't it? That you couldn't have a gun to defend yourself, but you could have a gun to defend the country. That's interesting. That's interesting. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Going back to something you said, though, earlier, Mac, it is the ACLU that is defending Kelly Jo Griffin. The ACLU is the one that is coming to the aid of her, so to speak, and suing the state of Iowa, just as an interesting point there, too. But, you know, the thing that all this stuff has in common, the abortion, the taking away our gun rights, and taking away the need for a felon, a convict, former convict, to disclose that information when applying for a job. The one thing that all the people moving in all those different circles have in common is it is actually a worldview issue. I think it is actually an issue that says people are basically good. People are good people. And so we've got to blame. There's always something else at fault. It's not my fault. It's never my fault. I'm a good person. Something else happened. It's the gun's fault. You know, it's not my fault. I'm a good person. I'm a good kid. I got pregnant. It's not my fault. We got to blame. You know, it's the baby's fault. We're going to punish the baby, whatever it is. You know, okay, sure, I messed up, but you know, I'm a good person, so we're just going to let all that go. And just there's this wave in our country that is long rooted. That says people are basically good, and it's never their fault. We're all just victims, sometimes even victims of the choices we make. I mean, that's how far we've come. If I make a choice and it's a bad choice and it hurts me and it hurts other people, somehow I'm still a victim of that.
It's not your fault.
It's not really my fault.
Yeah.
I think it's a lack of personal responsibility. It's a lack of personal responsibility.
By the way, on the Service Legends Truth text talk line at 809-0993, someone said something about tattoos. Bob, what was the one about tattoos?
Yeah. Let me see. I don't think they mentioned your name specifically.
Oh, but I said it.
Right. But it says, and please don't lump people with tattoos in with this group you're talking about, felons.
Yeah.
Being tattooed is not a crime.
Yeah, and I agree. And the reason and I appreciate that coming in here. That's why I love the text line. I like people who disagree with me, because that creates conversation. Okay? I mean, it's like Frank always agrees with me, so we can never talk about anything. Frank, who's the most handsome guy in the room? Frank is. Okay, I have to agree with that. Frank, who's got the best looking beard? Frank does. Okay, I agree with that. There's never any controversy.
Frank.
The reason that I brought up the tattoos was to show how sublime it is. You know, if guys got hair longer than, if their hair touches their collar on the back, if they have tattoos. I was trying to be very sublime in the fact that at some point, if we say who can and who can't vote, because I think somebody read an email or something about you have to be an upstanding citizen. Well, then you let the parties control who votes. And that is the thing at stake. Do you know the reason we don't have immigration in this country under control? It's because of the vote. It has nothing to do with the minimum wage or people working in the fields or blubbity, blubbity, bobbity. But it's the vote. Whoever lets you in for free and gives you free stuff is the guy you're going to vote for. Makes sense, right?
Exactly.
All right. We are going to take our break, and when we come back after the extended Salem Radio Network news break, great news, by the way. I mean, I don't know if it's good news, but it's great news. 23 Minutes in Hell author Bill Weiss has a brand new book out, What Happens When I Die? True stories of the afterlife and what they tell us about eternity. Tons of cool stuff in this book, and we'll get an opportunity to talk to the author, the New York Times best-selling author, when we come back. Tom Coates will be in the house. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat. Jeb is producing today. Frank is Frank's supervising. Oh, that's just funny. Frank/supervisor. That's an oxymoron, isn't it? I love Frank. We're coming back. Thanks for listening to The Truth. All right.